Hello everyone and welcome back to the Game Emporium, where some friends have gathered around the table to talk about board games in this episode of Top of the Box, where Ross and I, that's Ross.
Hiya.
And I'm Luke. We are going to be talking about the next games in our top 50 games of all time. We have gone through 3 videos now. We've gone from 50 up to 36. We're going to go from 35 up to 31. So
That's how numbers work.
We are we're getting into the good games now.
Yeah.
Gone from the these are pretty good to the good games, good solid games. So we'll see what we get, and then we'll break into the top 30 in the next few videos. If you haven't seen what's been going on so far, feel free to go back and check out what we've said in the last few videos. Maybe our favourite games will pop up, or your favourite games will pop up in those earlier lists. We don't know. Maybe they'll come later. Maybe they won't be there at all. That's just how lists work.
That's how people work.
That is how people work. So we're going to dive straight into this with our number 35 games. Take it away, Ross.
Sure, absolutely. It's a classic, loved by millions everywhere. I don't really know if that's a true fact.
Tapestry.
No, it's Azul.
Okay,
So I know there's a million variations on this, and I think probably in my mind they all kind of sit roughly in the same sort of vicinity.
The Azul family,
some sort of stuff. But but for me, there's nothing better than the original. Essentially, you're trying to make a mosaic, I guess, really. Tiles, a lovely wall. So you have these really... I mean, it's a bit silly I'm explaining this all. I feel like if you're watching this video, you probably will know, but you might not. You have these really lovely tiles that you're basically putting out on your board. You're trying to score points by putting them in lines and columns, and you score at the end of kind of each round. And each round, there are 5 factories, essentially cardboard discs on the table which have tiles on them. And you grab the tiles of all the same colour, and anything you don't grab goes into the middle. And then the next person picks. And then you can pick from the middle as well, potentially. And then eventually you're gathering all these tiles and you're placing them down. And then you're moving one of those tiles from that collection onto your main board. Anything left over that you can't put on your board because you've already placed a tile there, or you've been essentially trapped by your opponent, which is where the little mean bit of this game comes in, you lose points for. So you're trying to just optimise, I guess, really the placement of those tiles and making sure you're collecting it and maybe keeping an eye on what your opponent's doing and being a bit mean and taking the stuff that they need to slow them down. Like I say, it's a bit of a classic. It's just sits in this lovely, wonderful middle ground spot of all of the games that I really like.
Yeah, I like Azul. I like Azul from time to time. We played Summer Pavilion recently on Board Game Arena.
Yes, we did.
Because that's now out. And I think that's a nice... That was the one that I played first out of the Azul family for some reason. I'm not quite sure why that was the first one I played. Yeah. But it was the one that held the most fondly for me, and I've kind of outgrown a little bit. Is probably the... I don't know whether that's the right words to say. I've gone beyond Azul.
It's so mature now.
Yeah, so mature, my games. Oh, yes. Big Euros. It's no. So as I've kind of gone past Azul in terms of games I play regularly. I think I got rid of my copy, but it's always on Board Game Arena to play, so it's not too concerned to worry about it so much. And I think after a while they do start to feel a bit samey. I did like the twist that Summer Pavilion has, that you're laying it out in a rings and you're trying to score like different flowers. You're basically doing a stained glass window rather than a mosaic. So it's just an odd name a little bit. I'm not entirely certain why it's called Azul. It just is what it is. But anyway,
is it not blue in Portuguese or something like that?
It is blue in Portuguese and Spanish, but it is also blue isn't the exclusive tile. It's one of those things. I don't know.
It's typically the colour. Okay, we won't go to the history.
We won't go into too much about it, but so that's the thing. So I like it. It's good fun. I don't think it's on my list, but in fact, I know it's not on my list because it would have come up by now.
Yeah.
But cool. My number 35 is a game you definitely have not played, and it's one I have not played for a while. I need to play it some more. This is Tales of the Arabian Nights. So this is another kind of story decision-driven game where you are playing out through the Scheherazad's Tales of the Arabian Nights. You're going around doing different things and different tasks, right? So you're moving from place to place. Along the road, something will happen. You'll encounter a particular card combination that will give you a story that you need to turn to in your reference book. It will then tell you this is where you need to turn to. This is the story element you have to read out. These are the choices you make. Which choice are you making? It takes you to this table. This is the result, and these things can go either very well for you or very poorly. And there's just a there's a fun little like roleplay element that you can have with it whilst this story's going on. Just kind of like, oh yes, I want to go and do this thing in particular, and just try and get some particular story points from it. It's just silly fun. I think it is showing its age because it is very out of print, and I picked it up at AirCon, not this year just gone, but the year before that, so 2023, I think. And I've played it once since then. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm looking forward to Tales of the Arthurian Knights that's coming out, which is sort of the follow-up for it. But I'm also really excited for the similar style of games that is coming from, I don't know, I think it's Tales of Myths and Monsters, maybe? Something along those lines. But it's done by the designers from Final Girl, and it's about the Greek myths and monsters.
Nice.
And if you know anything about me, that's my theme.
That's gonna be the street, yeah.
That's probably going to be the one that I'll get for the next element in this saga, and it probably will replace Tales of the Arabian Nights. But I quite enjoy it. There's just a few things in it that are a little problematic, like you can be gender switched, and if you are gender switched, you can't win the game. But it's one of those things that doesn't necessarily make a difference to what's going on. But for some reason, it's just like a curse that goes away. It's just weirdly phrased.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just one of those. But it's good fun. I enjoy it. It's just dropped a fair bit because it hasn't seen the light of day. It's been on the shelf. It's just not been on the table.
So, again, we've not played it, so I cannot comment necessarily.
No. Add it to the list. Probably. We need to get. I think we need to do that with like the D&D group. It's probably going to be it's a big group.
Probably Arthurians and probably more and more I'm interested in, and probably that the more Greek mythology one's probably more, you're more interested in. So maybe we hold out to one of those two.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so that's our 35. So let's go to 34. My number 34. So I mentioned in the first video of this that I had another one of this type of game coming up, and this is it. This is Legendary: A Deck Building Adventure. So this is or rather specifically, it's a Marvel deck building adventure. We talked about Clank, just a deck building game that's sort of outrun Dominion at this point. Legendary is a game where you are basically, you've got teams of Marvel superheroes that you're going to choose to put into this big deck that you're going to recruit from. You're playing against Marvel villains that have got a henchman and a mastermind that will come out into the streets of New York. You have to try and deal with those whilst recruiting different heroes into your deck. And it's a co-op game where you're just trying to defeat the mastermind as much as possible to prevent him from enacting his evil scheme.
Yeah.
Schemes will come out, bad things will happen, they will capture bystanders. It's just silly fun, and there's so much replayability in it because you could just go one day, okay, I'm going to play with all X-Men characters. So Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Rogue, Jean Grey. I'm just going to put those in and see what happens. And then the next game you set up and go, okay, I'll play with Spider-Man and Ghost Rider and the Fantastic Four, and we'll see what happens from that one. And it just mixes things up, and it's just really entertaining against villains that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to come against, because that's how the Marvel universe works. You just sort of throw things together, see what happens, have some fun, and it's all good stuff.
Nice.
I really enjoy it.
I've not played it.
No.
Add it to the list. Maybe a bit urgently, but add it to the list.
Yeah, I think it's probably less urgent because you probably would enjoy it. It's not your theme.
Yeah.
But mechanism would, is your favourite, so you got that going.
Yeah, exactly. We've already talked about my 34. We hinted at the end, towards the end of the last conversation.
Yes.
It's La Granja!
Hey! Nice.
So, I mean, again, I'll cover it off briefly, but if you want probably a better explanation, watch the last video if you haven't already. You madman, why are you joining in at number 35, etc. when you have the rest of them you could be looking through. Basically, it's the really smart bit that stands out to me is the same thing you can mention, which is around one card, but you have multiple uses for it, depending where you slide it in under your player board. You've got kind of good market manipulation in the sense of when you're placing those. Are they actually market stalls, I guess, technically?
I think they are market stalls, yeah. Market
when you place them out, there's potentially higher numbers around the outside of that, and then if someone puts one down higher, they can remove yours off. So you're trying to make sure that you're positioning yourself in a way that you don't get nudged off towards the end, or you're locking or securing your position in an area. But yeah, just a really smart game, much prettier than the original. If you're going for the what's the phrasing that they use, the Master Edition,
it's
or
the deluxe Master Set.
The last Master Set, squeezing as many words as they can in there.
Yeah.
So good game. Just a good game. As one, actually, I think I was a bit reluctant to play the first time we went to play it.
Yes. You were.
And I think it was because a little bit. I think it was it's that thing where the theming is just not really like pulled me in.
Mm.
And I'm looking at being like, and we played the less pretty version.
BJ,
And that was harder work for me to get into.
Yes.
But actually, I could then see the enjoyment of it, basically, like, you know, how the puzzle engine works behind it. So, really good game.
Yeah, I like it. It's a lot of fun. It's I obviously don't like it as much as you, but again, probably just need to play it more. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I think it's probably, well, to be honest with you, when you start looking at a list of like 50 odd games, right, their difference of 3 points is probably actually not that far, to be fair. So it's probably, I think that ranks it quite well, to be fair, that it's both of us have it on the list around the same position. So
yeah, it's probably around 34, so that's pretty good. Alrighty then. So that's 34. Let's go to 33.
this is one you've not played before.
It's
Shut
happened.
up.
It's finally happened. God, tell me, please.
It's not going to be that unsurprising. It's inventions, evolutions of ideas, which is basically the latest Lacerda game, essentially. So sitting literally here as I point with my pinky, you're basically you're going through time, essentially doing inventions and mapping these out. You have these really nice tiles with kind of like the inventions on it. It's another worker placement. You got some options around exploring the world, but it's just another great Lacerda game where you've kind of got that teeing up all the things in the right order to eventually succeed. The little icing, I guess, on top of all of that is you can do some link actions, which essentially means when you do this thing, this other bit happens. So you feel less. You can combo a bit more. You can combo more than you could with another Lacerda, I think, or a different Lacerda.
Sure.
Lacerdas tend to be very like, I do this thing, that thing happens. End turn. This has a little bit more of like, I do this, which gives me that, then I can do that, and then now my turn's ended, basically. And you get a little bit of satisfaction out of the immediate turn, I guess. But again, one we should play relatively soon, because I think you'll like it. I think a lot of people are saying it's the best of his games.
That's interesting. Because I remember watching a video when it was on the Kickstarter initially, because I knew you would be interested in it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't hugely drawn in by it, but that does encourage me that there's more to it. Right.
Yes.
I'd like to. I think it was probably it's one of those you need to get into. I think I am getting more into the Lacerda games now. I'm not as into them as you are, but I am getting more into them.
Yeah.
And I think as I play more of them, I probably will go, oh, okay, this is what I can understand.
Yes.
Yes. And you've only recently got that copy yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, literally 4 days ago. So yeah.
Last Friday. So yeah, we'll do that. I don't know when you played that. Have you played it already?
I've played it digitally. Yes, I played it digitally.
Right.
Before, so.
That makes sense. My number 33, this might be a little heathenous for you, because I know how much you like this game. But it is fitting with, I think is it my first one? Yeah, it's my first one that is designed by these designers, or this publisher, at least, because I know it's a different designer. This is Hadrian's Wall.
Yes. So
I am a big Garfield Games fan, and this one is... this one's by Bobby Hill, I think, is the designer of this one, rather than Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald. But I do still really enjoy it. So this is a big, chunky roll and write, or flip and write, effectively, where you are Romans defending the walls from the invasions of the Picts coming down to attack it, and just trying to build up the infrastructure behind Hadrian's Wall in England and keeping the Scots out. And you're doing that, cards get flipped over, they give you your resources that you have to work with, and you go around just filling in different boxes of the wall defences and the citizenry on the other side, just trying to score as many points as you can. Fill in those boxes. If you fill over something, you get it, and you can use it elsewhere. You're just trying to fill that puzzle over the case of 6 rounds. At the end of each of the rounds, you get attacked by the Picts. They lead on raids that is just randomly drawn from the deck, so it can come from various directions. They will attack you as long as if you've defended your cohort well enough, then they will protect you. If not, you'll start to lose the respect as a general defending this part of the wall. I really like it. It's a really good little game. It's very multiplayer solitaire.
Yes.
Which is a bit of a shame, but it is still a good game. There's a little bit of player interaction because you might be like giving resources to do certain things. It's very minor. More often than not, you can deal with it yourself and not give the resources away. I am looking forward to the spiritual successor that's coming out, though, called the Anarchy, which is based on a different area of history, which I've only recently started to learn about. And I'm intrigued to see what differences that makes and how that one plays out, because it very rarely do Garfield games miss with me. So I'm, looking forward to that. at some point.
Yeah, I mean, not a huge amount more to add on top. I agree. It's probably more solitaire of all of the X and rights that you can ever really play.
Yes.
Like throwing one stone every 3 rounds in a 6-round game. It's not a huge interaction, right? But I like the. I get talking about comboing a minute ago. I like the comboing on it,
Yeah.
which is that kind of like, well, I spend this resource, which moves me up this track, which gets me that resource, and then I can spend that resource that moves me here, then I can do that resource, and it does kind of that build up. So, it's quite good, and obviously the scoring as well is quite nice because it's the cards that you have. Everyone has the same cards, but the variation in it is you only picking half of those cards really to score, and the others are giving you the resources. So, good game. I mean, I'm a huge fan, obviously, of whatever's and rights. So it ticks a lot of boxes, and it will be making an appearance later on my list. I can confirm now. Cool. Hey, do you want to hear about my 32?
I'd rather hear about your 33.
Oh, you want to hear? No, we've already done 33.
We're doing 33? In which case?
Mentions. We're moving on to the next one. It's you.
Which case?
32.
My 32 then.
Oh, I'm really excited to tell you about 32 because I'm curious about your reaction to it, but go for it.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, well, my number 32, will not dally too long, is a game that I know you're not particularly fond of. This is Ultimate Railroads. So this is it's kind of hard to describe. It's kind of a worker placement game where you're putting stuff down to try and build out this railway in... Initially, Russia is the base game that it came from, but Ultimate Railroads takes in the American, the German, and the Asia, I think it is, that it sort of throws into the box as expansions. It's just a big, multiple things that you can throw into there. But as you're going through the game, you're just trying to score as many points as you can. You put workers down, you extend tracks, which let you move your trains along certain distances. And the further along you can move those different trains, you can get more points. You're then developing the trains as you're going to also score potential points. You've got there's so many points to be scored in this game. It's not unsurprising to sort of go like first round, 20 points. Okay, not too bad. End of the third round, you've got maybe 80 points total. The end of the fifth round, you're scoring 200 points in a go because you've somehow managed to build the engine, pardon the pun, in such a way that you can score a huge chunk of points. And I find that really satisfying. I know you're not as keen on it.
I find it just hides a lot of this. It feels like all of the scoring is really hidden amongst stuff. That's the sort of frustration I have, where I'm like, I don't really understand. So you're right. You kind of accumulate points as you go on, but I can't really. It's not obvious enough to me, and this is just obviously a personal opinion. Obvious enough to me that by doing this action, I'm going to be scoring more points versus doing that action or following that strategy. And I think even the theme doesn't really sit. It's a train game, but you could literally have anything on there, and it doesn't really. I'm not really getting the context that I'm developing a train track. I'm just sliding one coloured thing along, and then I'm sliding another coloured thing along behind it to score slightly more points.
Sure.
So it doesn't excite me, I guess, is probably the best descriptor.
I think you probably need to play it physically to try and you'll probably be able to see it a little bit better. We'll add it to the list, but it's not as high a priority for you to get to. I do want to play it physically because it has been a while since I last tabled it. All right, so you are excited to tell us about your 32, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, it's not because I think you're going to be like, oh wow, or you might be just be like, but I'm just curious about your opinions on it more than anything, actually. So my 32 is The King's Dilemma, which we've just finished recently.
Okay.
And it might be quite challenging for me to explain the joy I got out of the game without spoiling a lot of the game. So it's a campaign game, Legacy, where you are all essentially the council for a king, and you play over multiple generations in each game. What happens is you're presented with a dilemma, unsurprisingly, and then you vote as a group on whether you want to do aye or nay on the thing. So it might just be like, I don't know, someone has defected on their military post. Do you want to punish this person, yes or no? And then depending on what you do will impact the story further along. It will also impact the stats of the kingdom. So you have the welfare of the people, the wealth of the people, the security, I'm going to remember them all, knowledge, and there's one more, and I can't remember what it is.
Morale?
Yes. I think so. Anyway, so this slides up and down, and eventually either the king dies of that generation, or the king abdicates because the kingdom's doing so well that he's basically useless or pointless, or is doing so terribly that he's been, judged for his or really for our poor decisions.
Yes.
But it was really good, and you have to have the right people. You mentioned in the game earlier, I can't remember what it was, having the right people for a little bit of the role play element within that to get
Tales of the
enjoyment
Arabian
out of it.
Nights, yeah.
And I think we were on the cusp of a lot of that. I think sometimes there could have been more role play into the things.
Yes.
But because you've got a sheet in front of you which gives you like side quests or missions to do, that helps steer you a little bit into making some decisions based on that. The unfortunate thing was I smashed through all of mine in like 2 games or 3 games or something like that. And I was a bit lost then for the direction to take. And if I'm being, and this is where I'm skirting into spoiler territory a little bit, the ending was maybe not as satisfying as I'd hoped.
No.
There's for a game which was, I'm trying to be really careful what I'm saying, for a game that was a lot about debating and discussing and then making decisions together, the end of the game kind of felt like it just came down to a tick box exercise essentially on some stuff. So, but overall, the storyline, some elements of it very funny, some outcomes very funny, some of the discussion was really good. So, yeah, I really liked it. It's a bit of a shame that, like I say, it's a legacy game. So
we can't play it again.
Not really an opportunity to play through again. I guess you don't explore all of the possibilities, but you literally are sticking stickers on boards. Mm-hmm. You're putting cards, well, technically in the bin, but in the bottom of the box. You're writing your names and stuff and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah. So having just rambled for quite a lot, I'm curious about your thoughts on it because I don't know how, actually at the end of it, how you felt about it.
I agree with a lot of the sentiments you had for it. I think it was a lot of the elements were well put together. We played 16 games of it over the course of our scenarios. So we played it, technically we kind of played like 18 because we had that one card that came up that forced us to reset every so often. And it's ranked 159 for me.
Okay.
So it's actually quite low as far as my ranked games have gone, but there's still a bunch of other games that I haven't bothered with, so it's above those. I think I found it a little bit challenging in certain areas because if you got to an early lead, you then had decision points to take away because there were cards that were given out at the beginning of the round. This is not really a spoiler because it happens in the first round immediately, so you get it anyway, which are just basically characteristics of whether you're greedy or you're an opportunist and that sort of thing. And you all get a choice of those. They'll get passed around and you'll be able to choose from them as the game goes on. But if you're in first, you get the last pick. And one of the 6 is removed. So in a 5-player game, whoever's in first place, effectively, gets no choice.
What's left. Yeah.
Which means you can't...
And there's normally a reason why it's the last one to be picked as well, right? So,
yeah. And everyone else knows that it's there. They don't necessarily... One person knows exactly what you've got.
Definitely, yeah.
But not everyone else knows exactly what it is. So they're all working towards their own objectives, which can skewer towards you in certain ways. And it just didn't... that was a bit irritating. I feel like they should have been at least kept the other card in and given a choice. Maybe add 3 others in there, take one of those out, and then you've got the choices to deal with those. So you had a little bit more of an option. I'd be interested to play Queen's Dilemma. Probably not anytime soon.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Aside from anything else, it's not out yet. Yeah, and I agree with you on the ending. The ending was very dissatisfying in comparison to the rest of the game. It felt like we were playing a completely different game, which then went from a discussion to a math game, which was a bit irritating. I think we would have been perfectly happy if the points we had scored throughout the game, we looked at something and then that had a correlation and said, okay, the most of this wins. And it's like, okay, fine, that's the end of the game. Cool. So yeah, not a bad game. I enjoyed it. I think I'm glad it's over though for now.
Fair.
I feel like if we had another 5 sessions to go, I probably would have gone. I'm done with
Lost
this now.
the goal.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's our 32. So last one on the list. Let's see where we go.
My 31 is again a bit of a classic, more of a classic for me, I think, really. And this includes its original and also the later kind of expansion, I guess, on it. Expansion in a box sense. A Sushi Go Party!
Hey!
So,
nice.
It's funny because I was just thinking where Seven Wonders is on my list, and I don't think it's made it anywhere really near the 50s. But I think it's because I prefer Sushi Go
Yes.
over Seven Wonders. So
Me too.
but the reason why I'm saying that is they're both card drafting games. So essentially what you're doing is you've got a selection of menu in front of you, unsurprisingly, sushi or sushi-adjacent foods. And then that menu sets up some cards. You shuffle a big deck. You deal everyone some cards. You pick a card on your turn. You pass your hand on to the next person. And then you pick a new card. And you're trying to score points by collecting the same sets of sushi, or by having particular numbers of sushi, or having more or less, or at the end of the game you have more dessert than someone else, or any other kind of these combinations to score points. Really cute, so it's really easy again to try to hook people in on a newer game if you're trying to teach them, like, again, some expansion on what games could be. And I think a bit simpler than Seven Wonders, which is why it's kind of sitting here rather than Seven Wonders, I guess, on this list. But yeah, it's one which I'll crack out if it's kind of a, I don't know, filler, easy, or new people to teach and play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoy it.
I like that in comparison to Seven Wonders, where you have that pretty much fixed set of cards that you're going to use each time. Sushi Go Party has menus that you can go, this is for new players, this is for 2 players, this will benefit a larger group, this will benefit if you prefer hate drafting, that kind of thing. So I like that it has that option put in there. I think it's one of the stronger intro card drafting games.
Yes.
So yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's definitely better than Sushi Go Party, Sushi Go on its own.
Yes.
Because you could just, if you're going to buy one of them, buy Sushi Go Party, because you just have the Sushi Go set in that. Just play with that. Sushi Roll though is also a very good variant if you want to play that. Just gives a little bit of randomness thrown in. My number 31, I think, will probably come a little bit higher on your list. This is a real-time game where I want to play this with a really big group at a convention across a hall. See what happens. This is Fit to Print.
I was mouthing the words just because I was going to guess what you were going to say. Yep.
Yeah, Fit to Print. So this is it's a game by AG and Peter McPherson where you are basically newspaper critters trying to fill out a newspaper. You're going to be running around, grabbing these tiles, flipping them over, trying to add them to your desk. Once you've got enough on your desk, you'll say layout. You then put them onto your newspaper and just try and fit them in to get as much information, pictures, stories, and advertisements in there as you can to try and score points. You'll lose points for having negative space in there, because that's wasted ink, and you'll have all sorts of different things that go on. You've got a centerpiece which you'll score points for. You can't have like things together because it just becomes noise and people just go, ugh, too many. Why have you got two ads next to each other? I don't want to see 2 ads next to each other, but they can be on separate parts of the page. The game, as the game goes on, Friday is the smallest paper, Saturday is bigger, Sunday is even bigger. So you have that spatial element to deal with. You kind of go, okay, I've overestimated on Friday, but I've got Saturday now, so I can do that. But I don't want to go too much, and then you really underestimate Saturday, and then you go, oh God, there's so much space here. All right, Sunday. Oh, too much again. And then it comes down to, at the end of it, if you have the least amount of ad revenue, you automatically lose. Your business goes bust, which I like as a little mechanism. Probably wouldn't work so well as a 2-player game, because you probably would just not do that. You just might be, I don't know how that will work in a 2-player game. Maybe you just don't score that element. Or you just turn the ad revenue into points. That's probably the fairer way of doing it. I don't know.
I'm itching to turn around and get the rule book out and find out how it works in a 2-player game now.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out later. As Ross goes off to... So yeah, Fit to Print, it's just really good fun. I really like it. You've got little powers, you've got events that we haven't actually played with yet, is the extra events that come into it. The only critique I have on it is the desks that go in the box are too tall. They could do with being a little bit smaller, or just being a flat base so that you could actually fit them in, because it makes the box really hard to pack away. But apart from that, everything else is great. I really enjoy Fit to Print. It's good fun.
Yeah, I really, really like it as well. One, actually, funny enough, I play with my son, who's 3, quite frequently, but not properly. He really enjoys getting the newspaper out and just putting the tiles down and just trying to fit as many as he can on. So that's been, although he plays, I have to really this is not the rules. We can't be having newspaper filled entirely with pictures, which is what we were doing last time. And yeah, it's really good. I agree 100% with you. I'm really, really, really keen to play the 12-player version where you've got you're running back and forth between the desks.
You have one person who is the reporter, one person who's the editor, and so you're running across going, "Here, boss," and they have to try and fit it together. That sounds like
so.
fun.
Here you go. In a 2-player game, if one player has more than 5 less ad revenue than the other player, they receive a 10-point penalty. So you just
Okay.
want to keep within
5.
range of someone else.
That seems fair. That makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. The fact that I knew exactly where it was, I mean, I don't know a lot of these, but where it was on the shelf behind me kind of indicates how frequently it gets pulled out. And I think we literally played it, when did we last play it? Like 3 weeks ago or something like that? So it's one which actually does get quite regular play in a shelf of board games which don't always get very regular play. So, also probably spoilers for next conversation as well.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that's good.
We'll save that for next time. So, that's it for us. That is our top 30 complete, or at least our 31 to 35. Let us know in the comments below what games you have in this section. If you're following on your own top 50 list, is there anything that we've missed out that we should go and check out? Or is there anything that you really like in our list that you think should be higher? Let us know. Get that interaction going. If you like what you see here, follow along and subscribe so you can get some more notifications when this is going to happen. And we'll be back very soon with the next one. Until then, thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Just wait.